Hello, welcome to Mrs. Pilcher's Bookshelf. I hope you are having a wonderful week. I don't have anyone to give a shout out to today, but if you would love for me to say hi to you, please leave your name in the Facebook comments section, and I would love to say hello to you through this medium. Do you remember our book from last time? It was the book Cranberry Thanksgiving by Wende and Harry Devlin. Great story. Love this story. Read this lots of times to my girls at Thanksgiving time. Maggie darted about like a black-stocking bird in search of firewood for the fireplace. She and her grandmother lived at the edge of a lonely cranberry bog in New England, and the winds were cold at the edge of the sea. Remember last time we met her friend, Mr. Whiskers, as they were searching for firewood on Thanksgiving Day. Now, Maggie and her grandmother had a tradition of always inviting someone to share Thanksgiving dinner with them. Well, this year, grandmother has invited Mr. Horace, and Maggie has invited Mr. Whiskers. And Mr. Whiskers and grandmother don't have the best relationship because she thinks that he's after her cranberry bread recipe. But Mr. Whiskers turns out to be the true friend. At last they finished dinner, and Maggie and grandmother cleared the table and went into the kitchen. "Watch that Whiskers fellow," grandmother whispered to Maggie. Maggie opened the kitchen door just a little bit and peeked into the dining room. Her eyes widened. "Grandmother, he found it!" Who found it? And what did they find? Crash, clumpity. There was a sound of wild scuffling, loud shouts, and falling chairs. Two figures pushed to the front door. For a moment they wrestled at the doorway and then seemed to burst into the purple dusk. One chased the other into the cranberry bog. "The nerve of him stealing our recipe," said grandmother with fire in her eyes. Maggie knew whom she meant. "It wasn't Mr. Whiskers," she said. "It was Mr. Horace." "Mr. Horace?" Grandmother looked shocked. "But why?" "Because he owns a bakery in the city." "And Mr. Whiskers knew this?" grandmother asked. "Yes," said Maggie. "Mr. Whiskers kindly came today to watch Mr. Horace and to have dinner." So Mr. Whiskers turns out to be the true friend. Here's a fun story with silhouettes of them sitting by the fireplace enjoying their dessert. And there's the recipe for grandmother's famous cranberry bread at the back of the book, which I've made several times. Another great story to add to your collection. Of course, you can purchase it through an independent bookstore or through Amazon, or check it out from your local library. Now, this time our book is related to Christmas. And it's a book I just recently discovered that I own. And just a great, great story. Very sweet story. The village children called him Mr. Gloomy, but in fact his name was Toomey. Mr. Jonathan Toomey. And though it's not kind to call people names, this one fit quite well, for Jonathan Toomey seldom smiled and never laughed. He went about mumbling and grumbling, muttering and sputtering, grumping and griping. He complained that the church bells rang too often, that the birds sang too shrilly, that the children played too loudly. Mr. Toomey was a woodcarver. Some said he was the best woodcarver in the whole valley. He spent his days sitting at a workbench carving beautiful shapes from blocks of pine and hickory and chestnut wood. After supper, he sat in a straight-backed chair near the fireplace, smoking his pipe and staring into the flames. Jonathan Toomey wasn't an old man, but if you saw him, you might think he was, the way he walked bent forward with his head down. You wouldn't notice his eyes, the clear blue of an August sky, and you wouldn't see the dimple on his chin, since his face was mostly hidden under a shaggy, untrimmed beard, speckled with sawdust and wood shavings, and depending on what he ate that day, with crumbs of bread or a bit of potato or dried gravy. It's a sweet story about how a widow and her son befriend him and commission him to carve the nativity scene for them. So I hope you can guess what this book is. Please leave your guess in the Facebook comments section. We would love to have more people like our page, so be sure to pass on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel to your friends and family so that they can join us and have some fun. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk with you next time.